that it was in fact a U.S. strike and not a Yemeni strike, as the U.S. and Yemeni governments were claiming, that they had him arrested and put in prison. And when the dictator of Yemen, the U.S.-backed dictator of Yemen, Ali Abdullah Saleh, was faced with such an uprising in his country from tribes, demanding that Abdullah Hayr Shaya, this brave Yemeni journalist, be released because he had been tried in a kangaroo court that had been set up to prosecute journalists. When the dictator of Yemen was forced to issue a pardon, the story leaked into the media, and that day, the dictator of Yemen received a call from the most powerful man on earth, President Barack Obama, who said that the United States wanted that journalist kept in prison, and he remains there to this day. That is, we should be ashamed as a society that we live in a country where our president is keeping a journalist in one of the poorest countries in the world, a country that's going to run out of water, a country where many people are subsiding on, are living on basic slave wages, that the most powerful man in the world will go out of his way to put a journalist in prison and keep him there because he had the audacity to go and take pictures of the shredded flesh of people that were killed in a missile strike authorized by the President of the United States. And the last line in my book, the last line in my acknowledgments, the very last line, is to say that Abdullah Hayr Shaya should be free. I can tell you about our friend Raouf Haikal, who was our friend, and I don't like the term fixer. You know, journalists use the term fixer. You know, it's what folks do in these countries for parachute journalists, and I put myself in that category because I can leave. That's their life. What they do is they make it possible for stories of the voiceless to be told. Our friend Raouf Haikal was the person who arranged to go down in advance and facilitate a meeting with this family in Gardez, Afghanistan, who were victims of a night raid by U.S. Special Operations Forces who had bad intelligence and raided their home the night they were celebrating the birth of a new child in their family. And they ended up killing 2 pregnant women, and they killed a senior Afghan police commander who'd been trained by the U.S. This was an anti-Taliban family who was supporting the U.S. occupation of Afghanistan. And the U.S. had been fed bad intelligence, and they raided their home, and they killed these pregnant women, and they killed this senior police commander who had been trained by the United States. And instead of realizing what they had done and saying, we need to tell our commanding officers what happened and take responsibility for this, they covered it up. And they dug the bullets out of the dead pregnant women's bodies. And then NATO issued a press release blaming it on the Taliban, and saying that the women had been killed in an honor killing by their own murderous families. I tell you that story, and that story is told in our film because Raouf, our friend, and his colleagues who he worked with to get access to that family had to go, can you imagine this burden, had to go to that family and say, there are some people from America, the same America whose soldiers came in and did this to you, that want to stick cameras in your face and want to ask you to relive the most horrifying thing that's ever happened to your family in their lives. And Raouf had to go there with his colleague who was local from the area and convince them that it was the right thing to do to talk to us. And the only Americans that these people, many of those people would know, were the people that dug the bullets out of the pregnant women's bodies, and then people like Rick and myself who showed up with a camera and said, we want you to relive the whole thing. And Raouf had to be the one to do that. And that family told you when we met them, I'm always stunned by the humility of people that you meet who have lost everything